Welcome back in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Birds 365 here on Bobby Bonilla Day. He gets his payment today, $1.93 million from the New York Mets, one of the greatest stories in all of sports. And another great story here is that we're joined by Chris Franklin here on Birds 365. You can follow him at C Franklin News and read all his work at NJ.com. Chris, how you doing, brother? Good to see you back on Birds 365. It's been a minute. I hope everything is good on your end, my friend.
Yeah, everything's doing well. It's doing even better for Bobby Bonilla. Every year he just looks
Yeah,
and
Bobby,
smiles in
man.
that bank account. It's a
I just
smart
want
man.
one Bobby Bonilla day. I'll take one, Chris. Just one.
Same
I
here.
don't need 30 or whatever it is. I need one. I
Give me
need one.
10%. Give me like 3%. I'll be fine with that. That'd be cool. That'd be cool as
Just
heck. But yeah.
one Bobby Bonilla day. Yeah, it's a great story. The goofball New York Mets. And now it's a different ownership group who has to pay him every single year. I think there's only 10 years left. Only 10 years
Oh,
left. I'd like to have one, but that's the way. But you were up in Allentown this weekend for the big Devonta Smith softball game. Anything interesting you culled from the trip up to the Lehigh Valley?
yeah, I thought there's a couple things. I thought that when you speak to, it was good seeing some of the former guys, Isaiah Rogers and also Darius Slay. And some of the current guys as well too, John Campbell, Cooper DeJean, they all were there for Devonta Smith. I thought the one thing was that Andrew Makuba has really stood out to a couple of guys. Devonta Smith mentioned him as a rookie that stood out for. Had a chance to get to talk to Jahad Campbell about him, who spoke. Well, obviously he's going to speak only as a teammate, but sometimes you hear teammates speak where you go, "Well, yeah, he's a good guy." Nah, this guy, the fact that he speaks highly, he sees the two of them being around for years and really be impacting. Says he's acting like a grown man right now in that locker room, and which is for a rookie, like, all right, it's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
you got
My
that
my
going.
only concern with Makuba is the size, Chris. He's not very big, and
Yeah,
I keep looking at this, and we say it all every year. At least I say it. It's like maybe it just doesn't matter anymore. The Eagles are undersized all over their defense, from the front to the backside. And Makuba is really small to be a full time safety in this league, at least by traditional sort of methods. But guess what? It didn't hurt him last year. And, I always say this, that the Eagles defense was better than their offense last year. Number one in the NFL, one of the great Super Bowl performances of all time, but they could not stop the Eagles offense because the Eagles offense would bully the shit out of them. That's my theory. You believe that?
well, I also think when you look at it too, like they might get away with it until the whole thing goes cyclical. We all know how the NFL goes cyclical when it comes to
Yeah.
thinking and everything else, and we're still in that 3, 4, 5 wide receiver pass, throw. So you don't need to have to worry about the bully ball of fullback for a lot of majority of teams, a fullback running up the middle, or you got these 2, 3 tight ends. We're going to run the ball right at you, H back type of system. So you can get away with some of that as well too. And the fact that he's able to roll down into the slot if he needs to as well too. He's that versatile. I think you can get away with it. If it was more, we're looking at say like 1990s football all over again, then you start to go, okay, maybe we start looking at him as a nickel or what have you. But I think they can get away with that in terms of that. But it's not getting size wise getting that one, dude. I think size wise aside, I think he's going to be all right. Especially if you're going to use those coverages. But for me, the only thing I'm looking at is we all know safeties in the system. How quickly can he adapt to it and not having to think, oh, I have to be matched up down here, so I'm doing this. Next thing you know, that takes off that 0.2 of a second to cover, and we all know what happens. We don't have that, so that's the only thing I'm waiting to see how quickly he can get down and just let his natural ability take over.
Yeah, I'm curious to see it, Chris. I want to ask you, who are you most confident in, and then who are you most concerned in when it comes to the replacements on defense? We obviously just talked about Makuba. He's presumably going to replace C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Maybe Sidney Brown wins it. You got obviously replacements for Milton Williams and Josh Sweat. Obviously, you're going to have Jeremiah Trotter Jr. in there even to start the season. Who are you most confident in, and who are you looking at like, ooh, that could be an issue on that defense?
I still think for me, I'll start with the issue first. But for me, it's more of the unknown because you don't have like that established veteran right outside cornerback who's going to be playing opposite of Quinyon Mitchell. And I still don't know if it's Healy, Sadori, if it's even Cooper on the outside. I know he's athletic and everything. I still like him on the inside for now because I think you do more with him. So
Coop,
yeah,
he's a
Mr.
star
Athletic.
now. He's a star.
Everywhere you look, hey, who's
Yeah.
here? Oh, turn around, getting like young Kelsey level on that in terms of like when it comes to the media stuff. But yeah, I think that's the more on the outside. I think, and I know a lot of people say when you look at the edge rushers because there's not a lot because you lost Sweat and BG retired. I still feel pretty confident in terms of that because we've seen Vic use those short man rotations, even though he kept saying even though they work a lot better with 4-5 guys on the edge on there. I still think you look at I think Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt. I still have a lot. I have a lot of confidence, probably near overconfident in terms of their replacement in that production. I think Aziz Ojulari, I think can be a decent guy, and the fact that I don't think they're going to have to lean on him as much as the Giants tried to do, just back with their type of situation. That's what situation before they made their moves recently. I look at that as more of a thing like, okay, I have a little more confidence than I thought I would have there.
I feel better after the spring in JALIX because I was really concerned about the edge, and I like what I saw with JALIX. But I mean, you can't, Chris, you can't learn anything in the spring from physical positions. I like to go offensive line, defensive line, even running back. You really can't learn that much. It's just a glorified passing camp. But JALIX looked a little bit bigger. Looked of all the edge, I would say he looked the most, and maybe this makes sense because he used to play safety at Cornell. He looked, when Vic drops them into coverage, he looked the most comfortable with it because they usually look like fishes out of water when he asks those edge rushers to drop. So I like that kind of stuff. But boy, when I really think about it, people are skipping steps with Jalen Hunt, man. I mean, this guy was playing safety at Cornell 3 years ago. And I was reading, DeCheco wrote a nice piece on him. He's down in Houston, or he's going to be down in Houston working out after, July before training camp. And he shipped a bunch of protein shakes. The Eagles have told him to get bigger and stronger. Boy, man, those NFL left tackles, there are a lot of good ones. Luckily he doesn't have to go up against Jordan Mailata except in practice, but boy, and they got that old man strength where they're going to push those guys around. The more I think about it, maybe it's paralysis by overanalysis, but I do not like how that situation is developing. The edge rushers in Philadelphia.
I'm so cool with it. Even when it comes to like the whole safety to edge rusher thing, I mean, a lot of times some of these guys are already used to it because they've had to deal with it already when they're going from high school to college. For some, I know like they were lighting around like, hey, you're going to be a safety cornerback, and all of a sudden they have put more weight on now they're a linebacker or they're a linebacker and now they're edge rusher, what have you. And having to readjust to those assignments and getting used to it, I think it's fine. I think he's got enough time now that he's kind of used to the edge rusher position. And now it's just like you mentioned, size wise, especially when it comes to those outside like runs when they have you and everything, getting the hands and not letting those guys get their hands in front of you. That's red. The run game is the only thing I look at Hunt and I think like, all right, cool. That's where you need to improve on and not get caught up on the inside. Let these guys get inside, and control you, and the next they're going on the outside, your outside shoulder. So I look at him, and that's the only thing I think he has to work on his game. But overall, I think when it comes to just the comfortability of playing that position, what he can potentially do, and as mentioned that being at safety, yeah, dropping those areas of curl flat, pretty much the same thing like he did at safety. So he's used to that.
He's
So
comfortable with that. Yeah,
just make
he's
sure
definitely athletic enough. There's no doubt. I mean, he's got the frame where he can add weight. Like Nolan Smith, he really doesn't have that frame. He's going to be 237, whatever he is. He's not going much higher. Alex has the frame where he can add some size. And I'm very high on him. Don't get me wrong. I'm very high on him long term. I just think there might be some struggles early. Especially when you compare it to Josh Sweat, who was just, for whatever reason, because he didn't have huge sack numbers, people dismissed. He was a really good 3-down player for a long time here.
Yeah.
And he could do everything.
He was good. If they had a way, and as well as if some bucks or whatever, the saying is, all right, yeah, they had enough money. I think he's on that top thing. That's my top thing because he's much more average can. But yeah, I think, are we going to see Sweat number? I think we can see early career Sweat numbers from Hunt. Maybe if you can get 5-6 sacks from him this year, I think that's a win. That is a complete win now. 5-6 sacks out of him. I think a lot of attention is going to go. I think you get a lot of your sacks this year, as we all know, with how deep they are in defensive tackle. I think that's where a lot of your sacks come from. And then eventually it's going to start out defensive tackle heavy and then go out to the edges when it comes to those numbers. So, yeah, I think it's, if you can get 6 from him, it's a good year. It's a good year, in my book.
Another guy I want to talk to you about on that defense is a guy who has become a superstar faster than anybody I can remember as a rookie, and that's Cooper DeJean. He wins the home run derby at the event this weekend. He's on the Jersey Shore and the pool floats out back, man. He's got the honeys all. I mean, Chris, this guy is a superstar. What do you expect from him in year 2? And do you think Vic could move him out of that slot? Because they do have questions at safety. They got those questions at corner that you talked about a little bit. Where do you think Cooper DeJean ends up being this year? And what do you see for him in year 2?
Yeah, you're right. When it comes to Cooper and everything else, I'm like, oh my goodness, he had like the second, third silent ovation all day. Everybody's going to he's up TO level. But when you look at the way DeJean is used, I think he's a Swiss Army knife. I think he's got that down now. So I think he's primarily still going to be a cornerback per se. I think they try him out more on the right side. I still think I'd keep him inside. He's going to be on the field all the time. He's going to be on the field at all, no matter what.
He's going to be outside in base, but they never play base. So why is it called base, Chris? If they never play
what was
base,
the percentage of time they were in base last year?
They were in, I don't know the percentage, but Vic said 160 times. That's it.
Yeah. No, because once again, nobody runs. Nobody runs the ball. So you're like, okay, you don't take them off. So you'll see, thankfully, teams still use all 3 wide receivers. So I think he starts in the nickel part there, if you that. And then I think if you see a little, depending on the situation, if you have a team with that like uses tight end heavy, maybe they roll him out outside a little bit more. The safety part, I can see him using a little bit as well too, but I don't know if I want to keep him that far away from the line of scrimmage. I think he does his instincts, even when it comes to helping with run support, when it comes to his wide receiver screens. I like him. I just want him as close to the line of scrimmage as possible. To some of these wide receivers, I think his skill set sets up that way as well too. So we're going to see him everywhere, and I think it's going to be nothing. I think it's going to be team specific. Like the Cowboys, where you start to see like your wide receivers and everything. I think you see him more stays in the nickel. If you get a run heavy team, maybe you see him a little bit on the outside, maybe you see him a little bit on the outside. You bring another safety in, and then you roll with that. But I wouldn't be surprised too if, hey, maybe he gets some snaps of safety if there's some struggles early on. But I think he's going to stay nickel outside, team specific.
I thought it was interesting because Vic said the same thing about Zach Bond. It kind of depends on the other guys where he plays, Mike or Will. In the case of Zach, he said the same thing about Cooper. It depends on the other guys. They have the utmost confidence that they know he can play the slot. We've all seen it, that he can play outside and he can play at safety. Long term, it's going to be tough to keep him in the slot for contract reasons, business reasons, whatever you want to call it. But I'm starting to warm up long term the thought of him at safety, because you can have a bigger impact on the game at safety than you can playing outside corner, where you're dependent. You're on one side. If they're throwing to the other side, you're not involved. Safety, you can get involved a little bit more. So 3 years down the road, where do you think Cooper's going to be? He's not going to be in the slot.
That's where but also, I I think if I'm his agent, I'm saying you're playing outside corner. Got just
Yeah.
look at the money,
Yeah.
and now you got to have playing him. But then, like you mentioned, you play him on the outside. You're taking him away half of the field. But it doesn't matter if you got Quinion playing well, you got who playing well on the outside. Then you can get away with that. And you're good that way. But I think overall, with his size and everything else long term, I think he's more of I think safety. You're right. I think on that one because you can do a little bit more. But I think contract wise though, and we all know money talks. I think
Yeah.
he winds up on the outside eventually because they're gonna have to pay him eventually. If he keeps going on this trajectory, his name's gonna be way too good. He's using safety stuff like that. So I think he's gonna be in the corners. His agent's going to start going, hey, you know what? Hoop's doing really well, especially after this year. Hoop's doing really well on the outside. I think that you can get a
Yeah.
lot more value out there. Stay out there a little bit
Well,
more. And
yeah, I see
push
it with
for
the
that.
NBA. NBA free agency started yesterday, and the NBA is worse than the NFL. But boy, the business part of it sucks because it really overwhelms the sporting part of it. And it's like you'd like to keep just Cooper inside. He's the best slot corner in football, but he's not going to make as much money. Like I mean, I guess the Eagles could wake up and say, well, he's so valuable, we'll pay him like an outside corner, but doesn't work that way.
And two things based off what you said there. First off, I still don't know to this day why the NFL players don't have a strong, if not the strongest union based on the popularity of it. As they're not going to never be baseball, but they should be around NBA level. They ain't demanding
Yeah.
his stuff, but I never said that. But you're right. Like you look, they're going to have to pay him. I think they start putting a bug in the ear of their agent. They can't do it yet, nowhere close to doing it yet, but they start putting a bug in the agents like, well, we projected around this one here, just floating it off. Would you think that's fair? So they start floating around and stuff like that and talks there. But yeah, it's really tough to keep. He's not going to be a nickel corner anytime soon. I think you can also find a nickel replacement a lot easier now than you could a couple of years ago, and probably use a lot of draft picks later on to find somebody who can develop
See,
into that.
that's the part where I kind of push back on him. Like, there's not a ton of good slot corners in the NFL. But part of the reason why is because I think they don't value them. So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like, well, we'll throw our third best corner in the slot, and he plays like shit because nobody has good corners. Yeah, it's weird. It's the whole system is weird.
I think it goes back to college because I think a lot of times you can see how much if you have too many, if you start to develop these guys more these outside corners more into the inside the slot in college because college they keep everything mostly simplistic as they can because they're not as many time to do that. They kept some of these guys more. I think a lot of these guys, if some of these players demand them while playing the slot more, I think they can make more money that way because of the problem issues they have right now in terms of that. I think a lot of times you draft all these outside corners, oh, we're going to move them inside, and it takes that time. I think a lot if you just
Yeah.
some of these programs start putting them in the inside, they can start pointing and say, hey, look, we developed these guys very well. Look at this come here. Then it helps the college program, helps the NFL
Yeah,
overall.
but
So
those I never blame the college guys because their job is not to make players NFL ready. They have to win at their own level or they're going to lose their jobs. So I blame the NFL people. They always complain about that. Well, they're not developing offensive line. They're not developing quarterbacks. That's what the Eagles have done well, Chris. They develop players well. You don't just draft good players. You got to develop them.
yeah. I think a lot of some of these guys too, that when you see the teaching in that aspect as well too, I think a lot of guys who spent a lot of time in college, like Stout, when he was at Alabama, Michigan State, and all stuff, like guys like that
Yeah.
who
Well,
know
Reed
basically.
Blankenship played for like
Yeah.
he was a 5-year starter at
Yeah.
Middle Tennessee State.
Oh yeah, that's what's like. There's so many things you can develop. Like so, all teaching. I think a lot of teaching happen. It's a lot of teaching happen in college that too. So they're both sides. I think can do a lot better in terms of the college because it's basically right now. So it might as well be minor league football. Might as well be.
Well, it
And
is now that they
yeah,
pay them.
yeah, that one too. So Yeah, there's some things that are good.
Yeah. Speaking of Reed, the Blue Raiders, the Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders, is he going to get a contract extension before week 1? The Eagles like to do that, Chris. They did it with Mailata. Right before the regular season opener, they announced a big extension, get some people hyped up. He'd be the obvious one this year. But he's got that undrafted tag. We talk a lot. That's tough to overcome. People still talk about it, even though he's a good player. He's proven himself. He seems to be a guy the Eagles want to extend. But I was talking about earlier on this show, Milton Williams bet on himself. If they try to lowball Reed Blankenship, should he bet on himself?
I think he's a serious candidate. Like he and Davis. Those are two I'm looking at the guys like we hear either before training camp. One of them I think we hear before training camp starts. Another one I think we hear before week 1 starts. I think those guys are the prime candidates that they get the extension right now. And then some of the other guys, the position dependent, they just wait and see it. But I think for Reed, it's one of those things, even if it's the undrafted tag, what have you. I think he's also knows aware, like his situation, even though how well he's played, you look at the situation around the league, what have you, and the safeties and everything else. He's got good numbers. He's played well in the system, what have you. But when you look at some of the other, I think when you look at some of the guys that are coming out in next year's free agency class as well too, Mail Pack and everything else, I think he goes for the money now, especially going as an undrafted guy. I know they gave him that little restructured contract on that. I think he grabs the money now, knows the money that he has now that's coming there. And he just gets it done. Like, okay, I know what I'm making here. It's gonna be a really good raise. It's not going to be among the top 10 safeties or anything, so you don't have to worry about that. It's a really good raise. I'll bank that, and then you move on from there. So I think Reed.
I think. By the way, I think he's going to be. You mentioned Slay being back, Brandon retiring. They don't have. They lost 2 defensive cap. I think Reed Blankenship's going to be a captain this year. I think he is.
Yeah. He's from what I've heard, he's been one of the guys that likes to step up and talk. I wouldn't be surprised if Davis. I wouldn't be surprised if
Jordan
Davis
as well. Yeah, I mentioned him as well. Yeah, he's the leader of the defensive line room, and Reed's the leader of the secondary.
Yep. So those guys. And who would have thought? Like you look at 2 years ago, and you hear these guys now. Now you see the progression of these, the way that they're letting this leadership. Like last year, I thought was very pivotal because you lost a voice like Kelsey. You're starting to see some of these guys like you knew Graham was probably going to retire, or the Mitch retired before he actually did. So to see some of these guys, they allowed them to prepare. It's like they're still vocal, but they let some of these younger guys speak a little bit more. And you start to see that natural transition. I thought that was a good job by not only Sirianni, but I think a lot of these veterans in his team should realize what was going on and allow everybody to have a voice. And you start to see the fruition, so you don't have to worry about who's going to speak up. You're going to have a quiet huddle when stuff's going bad. You have a quiet locker room, and you have guys a lot of like to lead by example instead of vocal guys. You need those vocal guys because they're the ones that wake you up. I still think there's not so much as it wasn't a cap or whatever, but just like that nasty, the bully guy. I think I'm still looking to see when CJ Johnson got traded, who's gonna be that bully guy? Who's gonna be that guy like that trade? Like, I don't know what that guy's gonna do over there.
Right.
He's gonna talk about. I want to know who's that guy on this team now.
Maybe they'll just bring Brandon out to talk trash and
yeah, right.
the special assistant to Jeremiah Washburn. He's going to stand right on the other sideline when they're up for fat boy. Yeah.
Chris, what do you think the offensive evolution looks like under the first year of Kevin Patullo in Philly?
I think it'll be a lot of the same, but I would not be surprised. And from what I've heard Saturday, speaking to some people and everything else, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Jahan Dotson used a little bit more in this offense based on what he's done. And like we said, when it came to these passing camps, these OTAs, they're just glorified passing camps, no pads, not real physical. You just mainly go and make sure you get the routes down and everything. But people will say he had a really good OTAs, really good.
Yeah, he's a good player, man. He's a good player.
He's got another guy contract year. I mean, when you hear when the team tells you we're declining your 5th-year option, And I know the Eagles weren't going to do it because it was high, and his uses in his spot in this offense is kind of tough to utilize him as much as can. When you hear that, as a player, you're still going like, oh, okay, ready to prove myself. I can still get a big check still, but I can prove myself okay too. So I think he's gotten another year into this system. He feels a little he feels more comfortable, and he's got that natural talent that we talked about before. Makuba, you stop thinking about the system, you start doing it comes naturally. He knows Jalen Hurts work. Jalen Hurts, so yeah, I look at him being used a little bit more. You're still going to use a lot of the run. I think you see a little bit more Will Shipley just to keep.
Oh, don't say
Mark.
that. Don't say that.
I
Well,
think
This is a
yeah.
Will Shipley episode today, Chris.
Oh,
before
Yeah,
you-
I like Will Shipley. I think people are going to be happy with Will Shipley, but there is a growing group in the chat, I guess, or maybe it's Xander, not high on Will Shipley. I'm like, what did Will Shipley do? What did poor Will Shipley do?
you see when you see the reps that Gainwell get, you don't have to worry about. I'm not saying you won't see Shipley getting 20, 25 carries unless it's the last game of the regular season, something like that.
Well,
but in the
hopefully, or
preseason,
Saquon's hurt, and that's
yeah.
not good.
But I think you'll see mixed up. I think we might see a couple times a little bit more of the two back offense a little bit more. I think fits a little more for that. So yeah, I think it'll be a lot of the same, a lot because Patel will just tweak a little more. Maybe we'll see a little bit more play action passes off of it. I think they take more of an interest this year into the passing offense and try it started out early on. They're not going to completely abandon the run. They're going to try to just basically spill it out and just go from there and make the adjustments as they go along.
30 carries for 82 yards for Will Shipley last year. Not so good there, Chris and John.
30.
The third running back. I mean, coming in garbage time with a
I'm just saying, and if you're extrapolating that out, that's
well, you're not including the postseason. I know that.
No, the postseason he had the 57-yarder.
Yeah.
He-
I know. Yeah. I
He's
know
a
you're
good role player. He'll be a good role player.
All
Star.
No, I think he's gonna be a good backup. That's all.
Yeah.
I think and my main concern with Will is pass protection, because that's a he's gonna be a third down guy mainly when he does play. And that's a big part of it. And Kenny got better and better and better at it. And most college backs, and Will included, are really poor at pass protection. And that's going to be learning on the job type thing. We'll see how it shakes out. Did you get any Nicobe time? I know he's sick of talking about his rehab, but we talked about leaders. There's your leader. There's your defensive leader, but he's hurt again. And it's a very serious injury, and Vic admitted we're not going to see him for a while. Now, that dude, Chris, was off crutches at cleanout day. So it's almost, you're like, we saw him with his Lisfranc injury. He was on a rollabout. Then it was crutches. Then it was the walking boot. All this, it was a really difficult rehab. And he has a breakout year, and then he gets hurt again. And now this time it's like, all right, he doesn't have crutches. He doesn't have anything, but this is a very significant injury that needs time to heal. What is Nicobe? Did you get any time with him? I know he's getting sick of getting asked these questions, but he looks so good. It's like we're all like, maybe he's ahead of schedule.
I didn't get any time with him, but I did ask around about when it came to that. I know I asked Jahad about what is his impact, what he's seen about as well too, and physically, kind of mom didn't want to say anything on that one. When it comes to that, he just said he's helping out in terms of he's helping Campbell out a lot in terms of learning the system. So when you knew Kobe wouldn't be that guy, goes, "Oh, you're a linebacker. Okay, sorry that we all knew he wasn't there."
Yeah.
And if he did decide to play, I thought that would have been news itself. Like, wait a minute, this guy's still rehabbing. He's playing softball, running around.
Yeah.
And
he didn't play.
He didn't play. Nah, he didn't dress her.
He did. I'm sure you saw that he did make the backward shot from when they went to the Palestra. He made the trick shot.
He did. He was able to do that. I thought it was key.
Yeah.
I thought that was key there. But I'm sorry. The fact that if your kneecap is up in your thigh,
yeah,
and you're already back and you're still rehabbing. There's a shot you come in like like there's a shot you come in early in the season. That's just crazy. It is. And he's a fast healer. That's one thing you learn over time. And fortunately, we've had to learn it over the time with that one. So he's a fast healer. He goes quicker than normal. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him early in the season. As an outside shot before it, it's I don't like playing the medical game because I'm not a doctor or what have you. And if I did,
I don't like putting the
stupid.
timetable. Nick Sirianni, trademark Nick Sirianni. I don't like putting it that. Whereas Vic says, Jihad will be back in August.
Yeah. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, he didn't talk about it. I think overall, I think I think it sounds like he's a little bit ahead of schedule, but yeah, it's still kind of
I saw him on clean out day, and I'm like, whoa, dude. I'm like, he didn't have a crutch, he didn't have a brace, he didn't have anything.
Yeah, and the fact that and then the Palestra too. I'm looking at it like it's crazy. We start looking like, okay, what details can you glean from that Palestra video? So you start seeing him move around. So yeah, it's going fast. It's a little faster than normal. He said after 6 weeks removed from the surgery, the timetable and the healing really picks up. And when we saw, I mean, parade, and then now you look and see him this. I think there's it's it's tough. I think he's looking pretty good in terms of that, but and if I heard he's a little bit ahead of schedule, but will that mean he's gonna be ready for week 1? That's still yet to be determined.
Yeah,
I'm hoping for half a season from Jacoby, but we'll see. We'll see.
He's your trade deadline. He's your quote unquote. He could be your quote unquote trade deadline pickup.
Exactly.
I think that depends on Trotter, right? I mean, if Trotter plays well, then maybe. But if he doesn't play well, I think they're going to be itching to get Jacoby back in there. I guess Jihad Campbell's a factor too, but we will see. Chris, we appreciate you joining today, brother. As always, a great segment here. We went up to 9:55 here, so we got a couple minutes left to play. We appreciate you doing it with us today, brother. As always, make sure you guys follow Chris at C Franklin News and read all his work at nj.com.
Yeah.
Chris, we appreciate it, brother. Thank you for doing it.
Happy 4th of July, Chris. Enjoy
Happy
it.
4th of July to you guys. Happy 4th of July, everybody out there. Y'all have a good one now.
All right.
See you, bud.
There's Chris Franklin joining us here on Birds 365. Well done by Chris Franklin. Always good to talk to Chris Franklin. I haven't talked to him in a little bit here on the show, Johnny Mac, but we love getting Chris up on Birds 365. And the Will Shipley conversation won't leave us today. But overall, great interview with Chris.
Yeah. Chris is a good dude. Knows his stuff. And was up at the softball game. So, Jacoby's interesting because it is such a weird dynamic. Like he's not healthy, but there's no overt. Like when I mentioned the Lisbrank stuff, he's on a rollabout. He's on crutches. He's got a walking boot. None of that this time, and I think that has fooled some people that maybe he's closer or ahead of schedule. But that's an injury that just needs time to heal. Yeah. Very similar to ACLs. I mean, a lot of guys are 6 months out of an ACL and they say, I feel fine. But that thing needs time to heal properly. And you got to wait that. The Eagles generally lean to 9 months, and they're not going to deter off that. With this, it's even more uncertain because there's no real concrete 9 months sort of litmus test that you can use. Some guys are back a little bit quicker. Some guys are back in a calendar year. And obviously it happened early January. So that wouldn't be good if it's calendar year.